Y'all know you like zombies. You know you do. A Last of Us Stranger Thing type setting fused with like a funny romantic comedy about a plus size soap maker and a broody vampire. That's just the bare minimum description of this amazing book, okay? So I talked about this in a recent video of mine because I just think the cover is so amazing. Okay, I love it so much. It's have character art on them, and I immediately picked out this plus size FMC, okay? Because look at her. She's stunning. She's stunning, okay? It just drew my attention, and I'm like, you know what? It's spooky season. Why not? Let's do a zombie rom-com. That sounds super entertaining. And I have to say, even though I am such a monster romance reader, I've never read something with zombies in it before. So this was a new one for me. But I am a lover of paranormal romance, which is what the author considers this. And after reading, I have to say, I agree. Now let's talk about the author. So Olivia Dade. I will admit my biases that I have read Olivia Dade before. Olivia writes exclusively, as far as I'm aware, plus size romances. So you know your girl. I'm going to read them. And everyone I've read, I've liked. I've read her contemporary romances, which as far as I'm aware, her kind of main genres was sort of a little bit of a different vibe for her. And wow, was I impressed. This has by far become my favorite book of hers. Slightly biased because if I see a fat girly at the front, it's highly likely that I'm gonna love it just because I just want to see more fat girlies on books. But I really did my best to not let that influence me, and I will have to say her being fat is not something that's like a super intense plot point, which I know is important to some people because some people get annoyed when fatness is talked about a lot in the book. I don't particularly mind, but just to notate, it's not like some huge plot point. To me, it's just a really nice addition, which, you know, I'm cool with that. So let's talk about our characters. So our main two characters are, of course, our girl Edie. Edie is a regular human woman who is a soap maker by trade, makes soaps out of her own home, like custom soaps. And the way she describes the soap making, Olivia either is a soap maker herself or she did like amazing research in soap making, because the way it's described is actually nuts. Metal racks there contain her soap making supplies, safety equipment, various oils and butters, her trusty immersion blender, heat safe bowls and measuring cups, soap cutters, silicone, birchwood molds, colorants, glitters and micas, fragrances, essential oils, fresh and dried botanicals, decorating bags, and stainless steel tips, isopropyl alcohol, and some of the many liquids she could use to dissolve her lye. Next to her supply, she positioned 2 long, sturdy stainless steel tables as her main work surfaces. Oh, okay, that's the most descriptive paragraph I've ever read. That was so descriptive. I was like, okay, Olivia, giving us all the details. She's a very passionate and creative soap maker by trade. Love that. I just thought it was such a fun little detail. When I was reading it, I'd only seen this character art of Edie, so this is exactly how I imagined her. Just a cute little plus size short girly with a brown bob. But Olivia did release some like alternate cover dust jackets to people who bought the book from certain indie bookstores, which I love, by the way. And I would say she's illustrated differently a little bit on these, but all the illustrations of her I just love. So Edie's main character arc says that she has a really bad savior complex of the traumatic event of losing her parents in the first zombie breach that happened in her life almost 20 years ago, which is a big part of this story and why she acts the way she does. Her parents actually ended up passing in the zombie breach because they were trying to save her, and it horrified her for all her life. And she's like, I will never just let someone die under my watch ever again. Now, she was a child, like it wasn't like it was her fault, but she kind of holds a lot of guilt over it. And she's like, I don't even care if I die. I don't even care if it's unsafe for me. I would do whatever it takes because I cannot live with any more pain of feeling like I didn't do whatever I could to save those, even if like they wouldn't do it for me. I don't care. I have our boy Chad/Gaston/Max. His real name actually is Max, but he goes by a few names in the book. Is our surly vampire neighbor, okay? So Max, we don't really know exactly how old he is. He won't say, but we know he's a vampire because Edie finds it out pretty quickly when she goes into his house and sees he only has blood bags. She had no idea the whole time that he was her neighbor, starting about 3 years prior to the book, that he was a vampire, because he was trying to kind of hide, because a lot of your supernatural beings that are in this world do try to hide. There are multiple types of supernatural beings in this whole world, and they feel like it's advantageous for them to not always be so out in the open and look so supernatural. So he was kind of playing the part of Chad as her neighbor to try to be sort of like under the table, not a vampire to her. And he basically acts like a dumb frat bro Chad. Her describing her previous encounters with him before the events of this book was absolutely hilarious. Later we found out that his name is actually Max, and our boy Max is kind of surly, kind of into the finer things in life. You know, he's slightly grumpy, maybe a little, but mostly just kind of more quiet and aloof. He has this French accent because he's supposed to be from like the French medieval times, according to the author when I watched an interview from her, and I thought that was so accurate. Okay, and his voice, the way it's done in the audiobook, oh, it's so good. And he has a lot of trauma on his own with his parents as well, which really helped with Edie's whole healing of her trauma, which I loved. Comes to their relationship is that he has had this fascination with her pretty much the whole time he lived next to her, and he just didn't exactly know how to handle it, nor did he really know if she would be interested in him in the way he was clearly interested in her. So that is why he would act kind of dumb and just kind of shoo her away for 3 years, because he just didn't really know exactly what to do. But he was secretly watching her and secretly loved her basically the whole time. Also very protective and true vampire style. Hello. And yeah, we just love him. He has super strength. He's fast, all the typical stuff of vampires, you know. So where the story starts is we have Edie, who just went and got herself a big burrito, okay? And she's coming home from the post office, and she sees her neighbor, Chad, almost getting attacked by a zombie. Now, in this world where they live, zombies are supposed to be all contained. They are the result of a government mishap, okay? They were not supposed to be here. They were created, and obviously they're a big threat to humans. So they contain them in what's called the containment zone. And then there's multiple zones outside of it that basically are supposed to be safe for humans, but there have been breaches, unfortunately. And she knows something is wrong when she sees one of the zombies, because she's not supposed to be seeing them, because she's supposed to be in a zone that is safe from them. And she panics because she has a savior complex, and she always promised herself she would never let someone die from a zombie under her watch. And she has no way at all to protect herself, really. She has no skills, but she does have her giant burrito. So she takes her giant burrito and just whacks the crap out of the zombie with it, mostly just to distract him from almost eating Chad's brains. And she doesn't have much defenses. She does her best, but like, she's about to get eat, okay? Her brains are about to get slurped, and they literally describe it as like brain slurping. That's like what they do. Of course, Chad isn't gonna let that happen, okay, because he's got a secret crush. So he rips out the heart of the zombie, which is one of the ways to kill them. Our girl Edie is very shocked by this. Like, she's like, wait, he just put himself out to save me? He just put himself out to save me? Like, she can't believe it, because for 3 years, like, he's basically ignored her existence, or anytime she's tried, he just acts like a dude bro and kind of ignores her. No, he goes out of his way and actually gets basically high-key angry that she would ever even think about putting herself in harm's way for him. And that is something that becomes a reoccurring theme. So Chad's like, okay, you need to come in here. Like, the zombies are clearly out. Something's happening. You're not safe. Come in here with me to my house. So he takes her down to basically his underground lair, okay? And she just doesn't know what is going on, because this isn't Chad. Like, he's supposed to be this dude bro, frat bro, okay? Like, this is not Chad. He's talking in a French accent. Like, she doesn't even know what to say. And when she goes down there, she's flabbergasted to find the beautiful work of art, which is this underground lair of Chad's. And here's her describing it. The place was freaking gigantic, with polished concrete floors stretching into the far distance, and minimalist fixtures shining on them from above. An enormous kitchen gleamed to the right, all black veined white marble and bronze, with an endless island and zero visible appliances other than a refrigerator. To the left, at least 20 feet distant from the kitchen or any other furniture, he had a seating area with chunky metal and wood tables positioned alongside long, low, curved cream-colored couches that belonged on a luxurious spaceship built 1,000 years from now. I'm telling you, Olivia's good with these descriptions. So he has this minimalist bougie layer, okay, that basically he is designed to be totally zombie proof. Like, he's got this figured out, okay? Man was not about to be eaten by zombies. And of course she's like, who are you and where's Chad? And he has to admit to her that he's just been lying to her about his identity this whole time. Long story short, because he's a vampire. She finds out quickly, why do you not have an oven? Like, she looks through his fridge, it's all blood. He can't really hide it at this point. And he tries to really act like, he puts on a show of like he doesn't care and he's aloof about her, but it's pretty obvious that absolutely positively wants to f her. Like, it's pretty obvious. She even says herself, which I love, she's like, yeah, he's lying. You know, like, she's like, I smell bullshit. She's kind of snooping around his house or whatever, and she finds that he has a tripod and softbox lights. That becomes relevant later. She also finds out that he has cameras pointing at her house. And I have to say, this was one of the most disappointing parts of the book, is that I was like, oh, he's gonna be, oh, he watched her on those cameras. I know it. And I'm sad to say that the book never really elaborates more on the camera stuff. I wonder if maybe that got cut in like some post-editing phase or something by the publishers. I don't know, but I would have loved to have heard more about these cameras, but it doesn't really elaborate, and that's so annoying. Makes up some dumb excuse, but again, we know. Again, she's kind of stuck down there with the Chad, and she's disgusting. She's got zombie goo and crap all over her. She's wearing these like coveralls, kind of like what's at the front of the cover, and she's like, oh my god, I'm disgusting. I need to take this off. Without further ado, she tugged her bag over her head and set it on the countertop, then unzipped her coveralls and shoved them over her shoulders and hips and down her legs. After kicking the stained fabric into the pile beneath the island, she washed her hands thoroughly at the kitchen sink for a second time. Got any pomegranate juice? It's my favorite. He didn't respond. When she turned to check on him, he was staring at her. His expression almost looked pained, which was unfair because she was actually wearing a bra beneath her tank top for once, and her panties were the comfy granny variety and fully covered her. And she kind of wonders like why he's staring, and she's like, maybe he just isn't into fat women, especially those with generous bellies and thick thighs. Something I have to say I love about this book is she does not shy away from describing the character with a generous belly. Like, she wants you to know this is a fat girly. This is not some just like, oh, a little thick, a little curvy. No, like, she has a belly, and she Olivia wants you to know that, okay? And I love that she wanted me to know that. Now, of course, she's dead wrong in her assumption. He clearly likes her quite a lot, and she sleeps there for the night. She wakes up the next day and realizes, oh, like, she has to go out and do something. She has attempted to call the authorities to help. They do have like this like government agency for reporting the zombie breaches, but they were very weird on the phone mysteriously and basically did very little to help. So she was like, you know what? I can't just sit here again. Savior complex. She's like, I got to get up. I got to do something. So she tells Max, thank you, but I have to leave. He tries to get her to stay because, you know, he would very much just like to keep her there. Like, no, like, I have to go. And at first he's trying to keep this aloof game going, you know, but eventually he says, I want to accompany you, he announced. Her brows slammed together in shock. What? Why? Because he hesitated, shifting his weight, the muscles in his jaw working. Because we're seeing this protectiveness that he can't really explain. And this is something we'll see a lot, that he just naturally feels this protectiveness over her, that even he himself doesn't even exactly know why, which is giving you know who. So once they get out of Chad's lair, they are no longer safe anymore. They have to fight off like lots of zombies in the journey just to like try to get out of like her zone. Okay. And I will say, for those of you that whine and complain about millennial cringe, I will say you might cringe at some parts. I don't think it's that bad. Okay. But there's like some little cheeky parts that are clearly supposed to be like humorous, but some people may find like Gen Z / millennial cringe. This was one part I thought it was kind of funny, but again, I could see some people reading it and being like, because I get comments all the time of people like, I won't read a book if it has any Gen Z or millennial cringe. So if you're one of those people, you may not like it. But basically they're fighting off a zombie, and Dee Dee's phone ends up on the ground, and it starts blasting Cardi B, Bodak Yellow, clearly. Cardi B called everyone a little bit top volume. Creature spun around in confusion at the ear-splitting noise. And basically that gave just enough distraction for Max to end the zombie. She said, Cardi B bought us just enough time. She gave a half hysterical giggle, pointing at his boots and her sneakers. Look, bloody shoes. He grinned at her. She's a prophet. Okay. You know, I get it's supposed to be a rom-com, you know, so like I can appreciate that, but some people may find that slightly cringe, maybe. They end up actually having to swim through a moat, which I didn't even know what a moat really was. I had to like Google that word, but then when I saw what it was, I was like, wait, I used to play this Mario game where you would swim through the little moat with the, I can't remember his name, You would swim through a moat. I remember that, and it was so much fun. And I was like, wait, this actually sounds kind of iconic. But it's just like a body of water surrounding like a structure, you know? They ended up both having to swim through this ice cold moat to get away from a pack of zombies. And before she jumps out of the car into the water, she does give him a little peck. For luck, she explained. And because I'm probably not going to live through this, I want something warm and bright to remember as I sink into darkness. Luckily enough, they do live through the moat. It was very dramatic, but they live through, and they end up in the parking lot basically of an old abandoned mall, okay? And this was the part I loved, okay? Because I love like the abandoned mall content online, and I have an abandoned mall near me that like I have so many nostalgic memories of, and it's just, there's something about an abandoned mall, man. Post-apocalyptic world, okay? So these malls are like been dead and gone a long time. They've basically been like looted. There's nothing really there. It's just like a empty structure at this point. She's like, maybe we can get in and just stay there and like regroup. Like we just need somewhere to get some shelter away from the zombies. And luckily enough, this is where we get our first spicy scene, which by the way is such a good spicy scene. So they're in the mall and she remembered, she's like, wait, I remember coming here with my parents. There's a pottery barn near here. Maybe they have like somewhere to sleep. It's a pottery barn. And again, she just swam through an ice cold moat, so she's like freezing. Okay, she's freezing. He's not really freezing because his body temperature is not like her, so he's like fine. But she is not. Okay, so he helps her dry off. And that transitions into some real fun time. Basically, he offers, like, if he can help her warm up, found some towels at Pottery Barn, and he is just patting her down or whatever. And she's really loving the attention, okay? And before he gets to any of her, private bits, he's asking for her consent. Now, I have to make a note here. Olivia absolutely slays with the consent in these books. Absolutely slays with the consent in these books. Every time there's any intimacy ever, there's always a notation of consent. Like very intentional consent, and I love that. Before he gets there, he's like, do you want me to, For the course of the last 24 hours, she'd begun to want those strong, capable hands on her bare skin. However, she could get them there. All over her, gripping, guiding, teasing, stroking. Drying was fine too. Drying was great. But before she answered honestly, she needed to check in with him. Would that be okay with you? Would you mind? Again, asking consent from him too. He actually laughed. It was silent, but the shaking of his shoulders was unmistakable, and mingled humor and heat had turned his eyes incandescent. No, sweet Edie, I won't mind. This is the first time we hear him call her sweet Edie, and if you could hear it in the audiobook narrator's voice, oh, it's so good. I literally wrote on the page, I said, yeah. So he starts rubbing her pretty bits, okay? And he's really, really making it literally as sexual as you can imagine. Someone rubbing a towel on it. And she kind of looks at him and says, Max. And they're kind of looking at each other knowing, oh, we know where this is going, finally. He says, show me. If you want me, open up those thighs, Edie. Let me in. She asked to kiss first because, well, maybe we should go into that before going between thighs. And he does, and it's fierce and hot and all that fun stuff. It's like sucking on her neck. It's getting super hot and heavy. And he says, now that you're dry, let's make you slick again, my Edie. Oh. And basically, he just gives her a nice little handsy fun time, okay? And she's like, dang, I feel warm now. He's like down to Pound Town, okay? She's like, why don't we go ahead and transition this to... and he's like, I don't want it to be on the couch. Like, that's just so not good enough for me. I want it to be so luxurious. And he's like, you'll drown in me, my Edie. You'll for me until you cry. He's like, soon, but not now. It's just so dramatic in the French accent, y'all. You just have to trust me. You have to trust me. So they have a really sweet moment cuddling and falling asleep together and kind of just talking about the insane day they had. When she falls asleep, she has a nightmare and he comforts her through the nightmare. It's this recurring nightmare that she has where she's dreaming about the events that took place with the zombie killing her parents. And then he tells her about what happened to his parents, where he also witnessed his parents die. Yeah, it's got pretty deep. I'd say grief is a big thing in this book. They actually do end up getting caught at the mall, but not by the zombies. End up meeting with a very interesting vigilante group that becomes unexpected allies. And later that day, they go to lay down. She's had a very exhausting day planning how they're going to handle this zombie breach with these unexpected allies. And they go to lay down, and he doesn't really pay her a whole lot of attention, and it kind of bothers her. And she just straight out asked him, she's like, why didn't you kiss me goodnight? Told you need to sleep. A 2-second kiss would hardly delay mine. He stops her. I wouldn't stop after 2 seconds, Edie. She says, you'd me, wouldn't you? Not a question, a statement. He says, I'd you. His grip on her hip held her in place as he rolled his own hips. The grinding motion, liquid, sinuous, taunting. If you said yes, my Edie, I'd you until you couldn't remember how it felt without inside of you. Which is why I'm not kissing you goodnight. Oh. And later we get a very intense, smutty scene that is the P&V, and he literally bites her. Yeah, and there's some belly stuff that happens there too that I just have to read. Pushing her right knee to the mattress with one hand, he nuzzled his face between her heaving belly. I love that so much. The top of her thigh. He fastened his mouth there and sucked hard enough to bruise, blood rushing to the surface of her skin as her nerves prickled. Her femoral artery. His fangs, her hunger and his, satisfied in one bite. And something about the lore of these vampires that you need to know is that they can actually kind of choose. They kind of have mind powers a little bit. And they can choose how their host responds to the biting. So he can choose if it's painful. He can choose if it's not. He can choose if it's pleasurable. So what do you think he does for Edie? It's more the biting. That's kind of the erotic part, not the blood. You know, because I know that's like a thing sometimes, and I don't really love that. But it's more just the action of him biting that she finds kind of erotic. And I like that. And in true, you know, romance smutty book fashion, he's just so verbal with everything. And I think that's what made me fall in love with him. He's constantly reassuring her. And there's just the praise component there, you know. So sweet, my Edie. He keeps calling her sweet Edie. Need to have you, my sweet Edie. That's right, Edie. Give me what's mine. Like, ooh. The smut was just the stellar part of this. It was by far some of my favorite things about the book. Okay, because who doesn't love to see fat girlies getting... Who doesn't love that? For the rest of the book, I don't want to spoil everything about the vigilante group and what they do to fight off this issue with the zombie breach and the mysterious government that is very much involved with this breach. But I will tell you, it kind of gives like a found family vibes, basically, like this group of people who help Max and Edie fight this thing. And there's lots of funny stuff that happens as far as like how they handle it. But it doesn't come to a total conclusion. And I think that's really important because it is very clear that she's writing another book. And I actually found an interview from her where she says it's actually like a 3-book deal she has for this like series. So that's really fun. The next character will be someone from that group. And I don't want to spoil everything, but I can tell you it of course has a happy ending. Come on, it's a rom-com. What did you expect? Max sacrificing himself so much for her and doing so much to prove his love for her, and their love and relationship just developing so intensely through the rest of the book. And now he has this really interesting backstory with a previous relationship, which again, if I tell you that, I kind of spoiled a lot of information, so I can't tell you everything. But what I'm saying is it is just like found family, warm, cozy vibes with a sexy love story all in a zombie apocalypse setup. Like it's just so good. It's just so good. This book is amazing. You gotta go read it. If you like this type of stuff, if you like paranormal romance, you have to go read it. First critiques for the book, I have to say, I don't have a lot, but my main ones, as far as like the world building and how the zombie stuff came to be, you know, it was somewhat a little maybe hard to understand because really that wasn't the point, clearly. Or just a fun setting for a super sexy romance, which I don't mind. Okay, that's why like it doesn't really hurt my rating because I don't really mind that. But like me trying to wrap my head around like the whole world and stuff and all of the different, like there's all these different creatures that live there and like there's a lot going on, but with like little explanation for the world. And like this is like the zones they live in, but it doesn't explain like what's outside of these zones. And you know, there's just stuff that like isn't really explained, but again, like not really the point. What was the point, which was the smutty romance, was done so well and I loved so much. So like she accomplished what she set out to do, clearly. Like did I totally understand all the world building? Like probably not. I tried, but like it was kind of not really the point, you know, and you could tell in the writing. So if that's something that bothers you, Probably why are you reading contemporary romance anyways? Probably the thing that annoyed me the most, where there was just some little its and bits here and there of like stuff that was never brought to conclusion. Like I mentioned the camera stuff earlier, like the whole thing with the cameras was never really brought back up. It also briefly mentioned a like fated mate thing, and how like there's a lot of beings that have fated mates. And if you know anything about me, okay, I love the fated mate trope. Okay, I love it. But like it's mentioned and then it just never comes back up. And I'm like, are they supposed to be fated mates? Like, is that what she was gonna do with this? And then like maybe backtrack on it last minute? Like, I don't really know. But I feel like I just have a feeling there's some like editing stuff that happened that like wasn't totally brought to like, not everything was wrapped, you know? And that somewhat annoyed me a little bit, but again, like, those are minor details. I'm not like panicking over that. I'm not freaking out over that. It's just something like I would have loved. Like if this would have been fated mates, I would have died, because I love fated mates. And that would have made a lot of sense considering he had this attraction to her that he couldn't really explain. Or like, you know, like that would have been really cool. I would have loved that. And it's just so cute. Everything about it is cute and hilarious and really just adorable. So you should read it.